This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. Thank you again for coming back this week and to listening to this episode. This is number 617. Can you believe it? We've been doing this for quite some time. We appreciate you guys coming back and listening every week, and also for sharing in the word, that is by spreading it to others in your social media. Please let others know you listen to this podcast. Some people may not yet know about this podcast, so your spreading the word will certainly help. One way you can do that is, of course, to subscribe to this YouTube channel. That way you will be reminded whenever we have a new video that comes out, so that way you can keep up to date with what's happening. Doesn't take but just a moment of your time. Please subscribe. Helps us a lot, and eventually we might be able to monetize this as well. Well, this week we're going to try something a little bit different, actually a lot different. A friend of mine, Martin Cox, over in England, I have had on as a guest in the past, and he has lectured across the U.S., and he's a very funny magician. I've worked with him at the Magic Castle before. Great guy, and he contacted me and said, hey, mate, how about having a couple of my mates from the U.K. who are children's show entertainers, specifically working in that. Now, that is not necessarily Martin's forte. His really is, again, I guess, corporate and doing family shows and doing close-up and that kind of thing. But the two gentlemen we have with us then today are some people who actually do specialize in children's entertainment. There are a lot of differences between the U.S. and the U.K. when it comes to children's entertainment and the way they promote themselves, the way they are marketed, the names they go by, and they, Uncle Bob or Grandpa Dave or something like that. Some people here in the U.S. do that, but I guess that's a little bit more prevalent over in the U.K. to kind of differentiate one from the other. So each one's got their own unique kind of moniker. And so today we're going to be talking again with Martin Cox, who was the one who kind of put this thing together, and the name he goes by is Mr. Biscuits. So that's his name. Now, in the U.K., a biscuit is considered a cookie in the U.S., and so just so you know what that kind of means, it doesn't mean it's a biscuit like we refer to in the U.S., but anyhow, you get the idea. The other two gentlemen, Paul Megan is known as Colonel Custard, and Dave Allen is he's Magic Dave. So we got Magic Dave, Colonel Custard, and Mr. Biscuits. So please welcome my guests all the way from the U.K. here this week to talk a little bit about children's entertainment, family entertainment in the U.K. Please welcome Paul Megan, Dave Allen, and Martin Cox here on The Magic Word. Well, today I am excited about having not one, not two, but three guests, actually, who are joining us all at one time right now via Skype from over in England. I'm not sure exactly where in England that my guests are, but this will be a little bit interesting also because all three of these guys are great magicians, but they particularly specialize in doing a lot of children's parties. And I think it'd be interesting to compare and contrast children's events in the UK versus how they are done over here in the US. So with that, let me introduce, first of all, Dave Allen. Hey there, Dave.
Hello, Scott. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad that you're here, and I appreciate you taking your time this evening to be with us. And Paul Megram, how are you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm very good. Delighted to be joining you.
Thanks so again for you being here as well. And my good mate for many, many years, Mr. Martin Cox. Hey, Martin.
Hey, Scott. How you doing?
Fantastic. And particularly since I got all three of you guys in the same room then right now. This is really great. Tell me, where are each of you currently? Are you in London, outside of London, in one of the suburbs, or whereabouts are you each? Just, Dave, where are you?
So I'm in Leighton Buzzard, Bedfordshire. So roughly about 40 minutes drive to London from where I live, and about 20 minutes on the train.
Okay. And how about you, Paul?
So if Dave's 40 minutes from London, I'm 46 minutes from London. Dave and I are 6 minutes from each other. We're near neighbours. Nearest for me is probably, as people would know, would be Oxford. That's the nearest.
How close is Hertfordshire from you guys? Herts.
Well, for me, actually, I live in Buckinghamshire, on the Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire, which is where Dave is from, and Hertfordshire border. So I am actually on all of those and closest to Oxfordshire as well. So it's kind of like all of those 4 counties. They call it the southeast of England, but it's heading towards the Midlands.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with Hertz because I had visited with Terry Seabrook a couple of times with him and his wife Mildred, and I've been to their conservatory or what's it called? The Conservatory Club.
Conservative.
Conservative Club. Did a little magic for the guys there around the pub once and everything. Anyhow, enough of me. Martin, are you downtown? You in the city?
Well, no, I'm just outside London. I'm about 30 minutes from London, and I'm in Hertfordshire. I'm in a little place called Bishop Stortford, which is near Cambridge.
Ah, okay. So the reason I was wanting to know exactly where you are, because those who are listening in the UK are familiar with not only you and your work, each of you, but also where you reside. But my question, I guess, has to do with a lot of times magicians who do children's parties, birthday parties in particular, work within their area, within their suburb, their little township or whatever. They're not necessarily traveling outside to go more than just a half hour away. So my question to each of you, let's start again then with Dave. Do you typically do birthday parties in and around your area? Do you go back outside that area frequently, or do you pretty much keep constrained to just one area?
Absolutely try to. So wherever possible on a weekend, I will stay 20 minutes from my base, basically. So those are around my local area, and that's perfect for me because it means I can fit in 3 or maybe even 4 parties a day. And then for those people that are interested in and they're out of my area, and when I say out of my area, I do include London in that, because although London is 40 minutes from me, a party in London is not 40 minutes away, because London traffic is just horrendous, like in any city. So a London party, can take up to 2.5 hours, even though it's only 40 minutes away. So in travel time alone. So I tend to try and keep those parties during the week, and then weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, the core of my work. I try and stay as local as I can so I can fit in as many shows as possible.
And when you're working then in London, that's interesting. Of course, I understand about the traffic and trying to find parking and just the general traffic situation in large cities as it is in Houston and New York and a lot of other places too. My question would be then, when you do those places or those parties then in the city, do you take the train or do you drive in?
So no, I never take the train unless it's close up. So I do children's parties and magic. So
because you have so much stuff to carry.
Yeah, it's my children's show is pretty big. So it's probably it's probably way too big. A lot of the times I have lots of big toys, lots of big props and backdrops and speakers and loads of stuff. So it's a car full of stuff. So I would never do that on the train. That'd be too much hard work.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. And I want to get back to the size of your show in a minute. But what about you then, Paul? What about where do you concentrate your performances?
Yeah, if I can, I mean, it's basically a price structure that I work to, that if I can fit those 3 parties in a day, the same as Dave, and I'll do a 10 till 11:45, the morning slot, then a 1:45 to 2:30, which will just be a magic show, and a 4:30 to 6:15. They're the 3 slots. Now, they don't all come in and always come in, but if I cover 2 or 3 of those bases, the problem comes for any working professional who's out there all the time, that if a mum rings up and says, right, I want you between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, that means you're very limited to the amount of work that you can do on that particular day. So of course I can do 3 until 5 for you, but it would have to be an extra fee on top of that, or more to the point, if you want a discount, if you go to these times, then I can do it much cheaper for you. There are exceptions. There are big company fun days, which they'll have you for a whole day. There is a wedding when they'll say, right, we want you to entertain the kids and we just want you between 2 and 4, whatever. They're more than welcome to have whatever time slot they like, but there is a price attached to it. So, you can add a few quid on top just because of the you're going to lose out on another booking. Now, if it's a corporate booking or if it's a wedding or whatever, they don't mind paying the extra. And some people would say, well, you charge more for a wedding than you do for another slot. I don't at all. It's just the fact that my earning potential is going to go down if you're taking over 2 time slots there at that particular time. But it's so, I mean, I've taken bookings for other entertainers before, and they've already got a booking in their diary between 3 and 5. And you go, well, you're only fitting one other show in on that day. That's
Right.
it. You know, you're very limited. But also the price structure again, they will see me in Oxford or local, and they'll say, oh, we live in London or we live in Birmingham or whatever. We want you to come there at the weekend. Of course, but you can have some serious money on top for me traveling there. However, if you do it as an after school on a Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever, it starts at 3:30, the party. They're normally done by 5:30. It's a really early night for the kids. They've already had their tea anyway, and you'll get, you know, X amount of pounds off by just having it as an after school. They're the most popular parties for me. Actually, the weekends are the most popular, but I say the weekends are so much more popular than weekdays, because then you can have a time slot you want. It's so much cheaper for you. The kids are straight from school. It's so much fresher, and it you know, it's a win-win all round is what I would actually say. But the truth is that the weekday parties, you're not rushing to the next party. You can do a much bigger show. You know, you're not thinking I've got to pack this down and quickly get on to the next one.
Right.
You know, we try our best to make a trip to be able to pack it down and then be able to get out the next one, rather than taking so many trips from the van or the car or whatever. But it's inevitable that, you know, Dave, very similar to me, that we have a lot of props, you know, a lot of things. You know, we like buying toys. We can't help it.
Well, that's a great tip as far as the pricing suggestion that you have about how that you would add, because you're giving more value to, well, they're giving the same show, but it's just they're having to work within your schedule then also. That's a great little pricing tip. What about you, Martin? What about what kinds of area do you work? Do you kind of work all around where you live? Do you come into town a lot, or?
Well, I don't really do that many kids' parties, but anymore. I go out as a family entertainer, as a character called Mr. Biscuit. So at present time, I just go anywhere anybody books me. That's that's how I go as Mr.
He's not
Biscuit.
fussy.
But I'm not fussy. But before, I guess I was a bit the same. I wouldn't really go out of my area. But I used to do a lot of covering for magicians. So I was known as a sort of covering magician. So if someone was sick or they got a double booking, they'd pass it on to me, because I don't really promote myself out as a children's entertainer.
Just a family entertainer. So that means more like for a larger, like a picnic kind of a thing or something.
Yeah.
So as Mr. Biscuit, I think it's interesting too that you have like a character. Do you have an outfit and everything perhaps that you wear?
Yeah, he wears a red suit and a white shirt with a tie and a biscuit waistcoat with biscuits on, or cookies you'd call them. Cookies on, and a sort of a bowler hat. I have a juggling bowler hat now that I wear, but that's what I used to wear. So he's just a character that I keep separate from my adult work, because we find that a lot of English companies and that, if you do children's, they won't book you as an adult entertainer.
Do you have your website set up so it's different then as well? A lot of us will have different pages, so this way you can direct an audience to saying, here is my website / birthdays or / corporate or / whatever.
Yeah, I don't put it on the, it wouldn't be on the same site. My adult site was completely different from my Mr. Biscuit site.
Okay.
So separate.
But I assume that you have a lot of props also as these other gentlemen.
No, I'm very in the suitcase. It's a very small, compact show that I have. Because there's so much that, like Paul and Dave and other local magicians have got such big shows, and they specialise in children's. I didn't really want to go down that route. That was the thing I didn't really want to do, and I sort of fell into children's magic per se, and then Mr. Biscuit was born, and then I mainly just covered other magicians. I used to do quite a few in my early years, but now it's only, I still only cover. If someone can't do it, they suggest me. Right.
Dave, when you were saying that you have just a lot of equipment that you carry around, you said you include like speakers and everything else. I mean, mics and a backdrop and whatnot. So that is a lot of stuff to set up, perform with, and tear down. So I would think that more than half your time is actually the setup and tear down.
No, not the case. I've been really strict on what my procedure is for setting up. I mean, in the past, I've actually produced a few DVDs on the subject that were sold and perhaps still are actually by Murphy's Magic. I don't know if anyone uses DVDs anymore, but I mean, I did back in the day. Yeah, I'm quite strict on, although it's an overused statement. Packs small plays big. I've got packs up quick plays big. So I have what we call them spider frames.
Spider frames, sure.
Yeah, so a spider frame, 5 seconds, that's up. All the material is connected to it. Velcro's on. That's done. I use a Bose system, so it's a completely standalone Bose speaker that's actually battery powered. So I don't even need to now look for a socket in a room. I can just go anywhere in a room. The same with my microphones; they're all battery powered, lithium battery powered. So that just sets up and it's in the box, ready to go. I literally just turn it on. I have a roll-on table. My roll-on table literally unfolds. All my equipment is in the roll-on table. And then the bigger props, that I'm using that day. So I change my show constantly. You mentioned about, Martin mentioned about children's shows versus family shows. So I've always been a big believer in that, even though it's a children's show, it's still a family show. I'm playing for every single person in that room. So I'm doing, floating table. I'm doing levitations. I'm doing a big prop, a big ending, so that when people are coming to pick their children up, if they haven't stayed, they're seeing a big spectacle of a show. So there's always one or two bigger props that come in with me as well, to make sure that I'm standing out against the crowd, as it were.
And I'm assuming that you have different pricing structure for whatever value you're providing. If you come in with an illusion, it costs more than if you don't, for an example. Or is it all the same?
No, not at all. I've always been a little bit higher priced. I've always tried to pride myself in being a little bit more expensive than the rest in my area. And so it's one price. I do different packages. So I do a package where we do the games and some activities and then the magic show. So a full 2-hour event. I do an 1.5-hour event, and then I do a 45-minute show. But they're all the same. They get the same value. They get the same equipment, the same illusions. Everyone, I try and just give as much as I can give and give it as big a show as possible.
Sure.
What I'm trying to give is people walking away going, wow, that wasn't like the average birthday party. I enjoyed that just as much as the children, because I am, like Martin said, because I'm a performer for adults as well. I have an illusion act that I tour the country with at holiday parks and things like that, and I do close-up magic. When I do a children's show, it's just an extension of me. Yes, there's might be 5-year-olds there, but I'm still playing for adults as well. So I just try and give a big show. But in answer to your question, I can set up in 15 minutes and break down in about the same time.
That's pretty quick. That leads me to another question that I want to ask you, Paul, then also having to do with the timing of that, and quiz shows and games and puzzles and things like that. You were talking about doing a show between, let's say, 3 and 5. Usually when people in the U.S. Will book a birthday party, it's for less than an hour. It's about, we have like 45 minutes for you to do the kids. And depending upon their age, obviously it has to do with their attention span, whether you're going to do a half hour or you're going to be doing a little bit longer or whatever. So is that something that is offered by a lot of kid show magicians or family show magicians in the UK that we don't over here, and that is game time with the children? Do you offer that? Is that a regular kind of a thing, Paul?
I think if I'm talking for most children's entertainers in the UK, I mean, obviously entertainers do their own slightly different things, but I would say generally it would be a 1-hour package or a 2-hour package. So a 1-hour package would be a magic show, and a 2-hour package would be games and a magic show. So you can either entertain the kids for the whole party with the food break in the middle, or mum can organise some games and then feed them and then magic show. Or some entertainers like to do the magic show first and then wave goodbye with the kids on an incredible high, leaving mum to kind of go, oh, what am I supposed to do with them now? Yeah, I mean, that's a whole debate in itself. I think the easiest way for an entertainer is let the kids come in for 10 minutes because you'll get the ones that are going to turn up late. The entertainer's got the kids when they're really focused and they're not high on all these additives with all the sweets and whatever else. They come in to see the show and you can organise the room. Then you leave them on a real buzz, and then the parents appreciate, my goodness, the entertainer had them all sat on their bottoms, they're all, and then suddenly it's turning to bedlam. Well, I don't actually do that theory, because I like to do it the other way round, whereas mum's pulling her hair out with the games and thinking, oh my goodness, when the entertainer going to turn up, do the food. While the food's going on, I can set up my magic show. And when they finish their food and they sang happy birthday, then over to me, and I will hopefully capture the whole room for the last bit. So they've gone from bedlam to this guy has got the focus of the kids, and that way round. So entertainers, some people do it one way, some people do it the other way. But if they're just booking me for a magic show, I will tend to do it that way round. But if they're booking me for the whole lot, well, just feed them in the middle. Yeah, but mums, I say mums, it's generally mums that make the decision, not dad. So mums generally go either I'll do half of it or you do the lot. That's how it.
And do you also have a large show, kind of like what Dave does, as far as packing in a lot of stuff on your backdrop and curtains and larger illusions as well?
Yeah, it's a big show. It's no bigger than Dave's, but Dave's got his packing organised, which I never quite have. There are just different things that I have to take into my show that, like a unicycle, for example, you can't put that in a roll-on box. So that, unfortunately, is another trip to the van. So it's not a bigger show than Dave's, but it just doesn't pack quite as tight as Dave. So it takes me a little bit longer in the setup and the pack down. But because we're we chat all the time. In fact, the three of us chat all the time. But with Dave and I, Dave said, there's a new Bose system out. You want to get this one? It's like, okay, that's going to be more money, isn't it? But, on Dave's recommendation, it's like, it's really good. Then I go down the same route. So, yeah. So, yeah, a bit longer to set up and to pack down, but certainly no bigger show.
Martin has a character as Mr. Biscuit. What is your character known as there, Paul?
For the children's stuff, I go under the name of Colonel Custard.
Colonel Custard. And Dave, you are who?
Magic Dave.
Magic Dave. Martin, I want to get back over to you then a minute also. We talked briefly before we started this discussion, yesterday, just you and I was asking about doing other shows in the UK for children, particularly school shows and library shows. And you said there is a market for school shows, but not so much for library shows as there is in the US. Is that true? Is that kind of, you elaborate a bit more on that?
I think that's pretty true, that some magicians do safety and bullying and things, shows like that
in their school shows.
In the school shows, but the libraries don't tend to book magicians for anything, not that I know of. I don't know of any British magician that do library shows, but that may be a market that we should look at. Oh, Dave's just put his hand up.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
They used to do a lot. I had a contract for about 3 years with libraries, actually, Martin. The whole of Bedfordshire libraries, all of them. About 3 years in a row, I did them. Great fun. Didn't you do them at one point as well, Paul? Did you do any?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there was a market last year for them as well, where I wasn't doing that market, but they were basically saying, let's give you 30 shows, but you're not going to get your right. Yeah, that's gone a little bit quiet this year, but it's certainly, I think it's going to be back again. But,
yeah, that was the same with me. They had about 30 libraries. You got a little bit less than your normal market rate, but that was based on you doing more. And sometimes it was 3 libraries a day in the summer holidays for what they were doing, a reading challenge, things like that. So there is a definite, there are library shows. They will come back as well. Yeah.
Well, and what about having a theme? I know in the U.S., again, and I'm not speaking from personal experience. I've done a lot of things within magic, and I've done a lot of kid shows, but I really haven't done any school assemblies per se, nor library shows. But I know a lot of my friends here who do those shows, certainly. And It used to be, from what I understand, years and years and years ago, you did not have to have anything more than just an entertaining program to go into a school. As things progress, it's kind of like, for them to approve you, you have to have a theme that is approved of, whether it's going to be, bullying, or I don't know. There has to be something that has a message that's approved by the school before that you do it. And so you're just not coming in and doing a standard magic show. Is that something kind of the same over there? Paul, how about you?
Yeah, I was piecing together your question there, but I'm going to answer the question that I thought I heard from what you said.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit there. You're
as time has certainly been. Yeah, I'll try again. take two. So it always used to be a case with magic shows. Well, for me personally, that a school would book you, whether it was end of summer term or Christmas term, just to have a magic show, just to give the kids some fun. But in other times of the year, it's becoming more and more difficult now for a school to find a budget to just book you for a magic show. So therefore, theme shows where there's an education element to it is certainly the way forward, but it's not the direction I've personally gone with it. So yes is the answer to that. School, I think, is more likely to book you, but I don't do a reading week or a dinosaur show or whatever else in that way. So,
Dave, any comment on your side?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started my business it was around the year 2000, I started up my company. I did my first school show, absolutely loved it. Just my normal box standard magic show, but just enjoyed the element of having 200 children in front of me and teachers either side of them, telling them to be quiet if they even opened up their mouth and not the right moment, and thought, this is great, I've got such a captured audience. So I designed a road safety show, which I then pitched to the local council. And he's still there, he's bouncing around a bit. Am I still coming through all right?
Yes, you are. Hear you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I then pitched to my local council a road safety show, and they said, that's a really great idea, we love it all, can we work with you on making the message a little bit clearer? And I said, yeah, no problem at all. And then what was born was another character called Captain Safety. And basically it took on another persona where I performed magic, ventriloquism, and even songs. I even sung in this show. And I was at one point seeing they started hiring theatres for me and bringing the children in to see the show by coach loads. So in one day I was seeing like 3,000 students in shows, and it was a massive thing for quite a long time. For about 15 years near enough I was doing those shows.
Okay.
And then unfortunately the department that were booking them in the council collapsed, and they got rid of the department, the budget all went, and that's when they stopped. So although I get a few here and there, I don't
not like you did before, though.
Yeah, not as many, but loved it. Really great to do them.
Right. Martin, do you see there are a lot of competitors within the market for family shows?
Not so much for family shows. I think mainly for children's shows. Definitely, there's quite a few magicians who pop up, and they don't tend to last very long if they're not very good. Like near me, my nearest real competition lives in Harlow, which is about 16 miles away. But I don't really consider them as competition, because we are all so different. Like Dave's so different to me, Paul's so different to me. I run my show a different way round when I used to do them regularly to Dave and Paul. So I just think it's so there isn't that much competition. The problem here is more or less a price war. Parents tend to go for the cheapest. So once they've booked you and seen you, and other parents have seen you, then you tend to get booked more. And rather than just the advertising and stuff. Though they do have on Facebook groups and stuff. They have a mummy's Facebook group and stuff like that, and they recommend magicians and stuff who they've seen. So that's where the bulk of people who find out about you go through them things. So most work comes from recommendation.
Right. I would think also the same thing, like at least when I work birthday parties, there will be other children who are there whose parents are picking them up, or they're telling their parents, hey, I want to have that magician at my party. And so one party begets another. And I think that's probably universal. Wouldn't you say so, Paul?
Absolutely. When I lecture, I say to magicians, if you've got 25 kids at this party, you only need 2 bookings. You only need 2 of those children to say they want you for their birthday party.
Good point.
If you get 2 bookings from every party you do, you're going to be snowed under in absolutely no time whatsoever. So in a way, it should be an incredibly easy market to thrive and survive in. Yes, there is the social media and it plays a massive part. It doesn't play a massive part in my industry, unfortunately, because I'd like it to play a bigger part. But if the phone or the email or whatever is starting to come in from just those 2 kids, and hopefully there's going to be more than 2 that love your show in there, then you should be able to expand in that way. So, yeah.
Right. Also, Dave, is this a market over in your country as well, and that is for bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs? I mean, are they just as popular as birthday parties as well?
The reason why I'm smiling and laughing is the answer is yes. My answer is I don't enjoy them. They're very, very hard work.
Yeah, I know.
I tend to put my price up because it's almost like danger money, in my opinion, for a bar mitzvah. But mitzvahs, generally speaking, they want close-up magic rather than a kid's show, because when they're not kids anyway. The bar mitzvah children, I've always, and I don't mean to be sort of tar everyone with the same brush, but they're very hyped up, they're very excited, and they tend to come from a very wealthy background, and a lot of money is being spent on the events. And they just tend to be quite hard work. I know some people really enjoy them. I've just yet to do one where I've really enjoyed it. So when they come in, I just the price goes up and I go, right, let's get this over and done with. So there's definitely a market, but not one that I thrive in. Okay.
Paul or Martin, do you have a comment on that from your experience?
I used to do it. I'd done about 4 or 5. And after the 5th one, I decided this is not the market I'm suited for.
Okay.
and that's putting it in a nice way.
Yeah.
But I have made 2 bar mitzvah boys cry, so I don't know what that means.
I found sometime, I remember once when I was doing a bar mitzvah and I was entertaining the youth, and I went in then to entertain the adults as well. And the mother had said, no, you're supposed to be with the children. And she kept pushing me away, saying, this is for them, not for us. Okay, I got the point. And so I tried to center it really on the child and his friends, or her friends.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I would think also birthdays, as we are getting older, we are finding some people we are entertaining are the children of those who we had entertained in the past, talking about where you have some kids who are saying, hey, I want to have that guy at my next party also. I've had things, speaking of bar mitzvahs, I had a bat mitzvah a while back in which I did something for a young lady, and she said, well, I want to have you for my daughter's bat mitzvah because you did mine. It's like, oh man, now I really feel old. So I'm sure that's probably happened somewhere for you guys also with birthday parties, of being booked saying, you did my party, I wanted you to do my child's 7th birthday party or whatever.
Well, I'm far too young, so I'll have to hand that over to the other 2 gentlemen.
I think that's my biggest fear when they say, oh, you done my mum's birthday and now you're doing my daughter's birthday. So yeah, that's pretty yeah. I really don't want that said. That's why really I killed off, not killed off, but Mr. Biscuit's taken a real back burner for me. I really just don't hardly do any of his shows at all. Again, it mainly comes from covering or people who've booked me before have
Right.
asked for that character to be dusted off and come out. And I think it's that mental thing of me thinking I want to be remembered as Mr. Biscuit, as a good magician, though, rather than Mr. Biscuit, the old guy who's not very good anymore.
That's true. That's true.
It's funny, Scott. You say about do any of us do theme shows? And when Martin says he made 2 kids cry at a bar mitzvah, that's his bullying theme show that he does. He does it for bar mitzvahs. but just to answer the question there about doing bar mitzvahs, and I'm going to name drop here, but was having a chat with Matt King the other day, and part of the success that he said was to take on any show wherever it would be. And look where it got him, 20 years in Las Vegas. Well, unfortunately, this is why I'm still stuck around Oxford, because I don't have that attitude. And I say, I'm more than happy to take on your booking, but I'll take it on for in the way like this. And if they said to me, we just want you to concentrate on the 12 and 13-year-olds and not the adults, I would say, but I'm a family entertainer. And I have to be able to entertain everybody, not to turn up to an event and then the booker to say, no, just see the 12 and 13-year-olds, because I want to play the room. And they need to know that before I take on the booking. So therefore, you're not stuck with a group of 12, 13-year-olds that don't appreciate it. However, if you've got a group of 12 and 13-year-old at a bar mitzvah who are loving it, appreciating it, and respecting everything, then by all means do another 10 tricks for them. So I need to have that flexibility to be able to see everybody and not to concentrate just on those 12, 13-year-olds,
You hit on something there, Paul, that I was going to bring up, and that has to do with party planners. They're big in the U.S., where there will be a parent, for birthday parties in particular, who will just make a one-stop call, basically, to a party planner and say, it's my child's birthday. Could you just, have X dollars a mail or pounds available to spend for this? And that will include the cake and the party decorations and the entertainment and party favors and games, whatever it is. So they are in charge of doing that. And typically, of course, they're trying to do it for the least cost possible, which is why, Martin, back to your point, it does a lot of times come down to being price driven, in which they will kind of make a call through their directory and to different magicians saying, hey, I've only got 100 pounds to give you or whatever today. Are you willing to do it? And or more, but then they got to take a fee out of that or whatever it is. Kind of like an agent, but they're really not an agent. They're a party planner. Is that something that's over there? I mean, is a big thing. Do you have a lot of party planners doing that, Dave or Paul? Go ahead, Paul.
No, go on, Dave. You go for it. Answer it.
Dave, you want to answer that first?
Sure. They certainly are party planners. They tend to be. In my experience, personally, they tend to be the London gigs, and they tend to be the people that are actually trying to spend more money rather than less money. And they tend to be a bigger event, and I won't be the only thing there. So there'll be a bounce house, there'll be candy floss, there'll be popcorn, there'll be maybe they've got a juggler or a stilt walker. They tend to be a bigger affair. And they'll have lots of big decorations, and I'll be one small cog in that big machine of a party. Those tend to be the ones that I get involved with party planners, and they either are a very wealthy family or the bigger events, kind of the big corporate events. Generally speaking, I'm dealing with the mum or the dad organising their little child's birthday party.
But with those party planners, do they in the UK tend to minimize magic? In other words, magician. Are they looking for the cheapest person to plug into that?
Not in my opinion, no.
Okay.
They're from what I've had in the past, they are looking for the quality of the entertainment.
Because their reputation is on stake too.
Exactly. So they're coming across. If they know of me, if they've seen my work, then that's generally how I'm getting those kind of calls. And then sometimes they're just coming on the back of the website and they're going, we like what you've got on offer here. You seem like you might do a good job at this party. What can you do? What they do tend to do is they do tend to dictate a lot more than a normal party would be. Like we was talking about earlier on, the structure of the party. they told us sort of say, we want you to perform at this point, and I would say, no, it doesn't really work there. I would like to perform in this way, and then you would tend to sort of fight a little bit with them because they've got a certain way they want to do it, and you've got a certain way you want to do it. Where normally a mum or a dad would just go, you're the boss, you know what you're talking about, you tell us what you want to do. But party planners, they think they're the boss, and you've got to kind of do what they want you to do. And at the end of the day, I generally, as long as I feel it won't affect my show or the entertainment too much, I tend to go along with what they want, because at the end of the day, they're still the client. So
they're the client.
They're the client, and that's what I do.
Paul, how about you? Any comment on that?
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. But I think my guess would be, and it is only a guess, that there are very, very few party planners in the UK compared to America. That I don't think we generally have that over here. Yes, there are party planners. Yes, there are, nannies who are organising events. I mean, I know that's not a party planner as such, but than not, 99% it's coming from the mum that will book us direct. I mean, yes, the company fun days and that's the thing, but more often than not, it'll come direct from a mum, not a party planner to book us. I think that's generally how it goes for.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I didn't think there were as many over there as there are here. I mean, yeah, you get a lot of calls from that over here. Now, when you're, Martin, doing family shows, are those coming directly from, and I assume sometimes, and a lot of times even in your experience, might come from a company in which you're saying, hey, we're going to be having an employee party for the families. So you're being employed by a company as opposed to a family in some of those cases.
Again, not necessarily. I mean, I've done some families. I do near enough every year do something it's the grandparents who book me to do their family. So they've got their family coming round in the summer for something, and they'll book me, and I'll do a parlour show, or I'll do something in the garden for them. The other thing is, we're going back to your party planner thing. Again, like we said, there is that many, and corporate here don't tend to have family picnics and things like that. I've done one or two here in where I live, and then it came to the third one, and I got cancelled at the last minute because the people, the workers, didn't want them to spend money on this picnic. They'd rather have a bonus at Christmas.
Right.
So
I'll take the cash, not the party.
I think this is more of an American thing. Mainly American companies do the family picnic. Not many British companies do that. And the other thing is that within that, you normally get booked as almost like a babysitter. So it's like, right, true. you come, you go in that room. We'll put all the kids in that room, and all the adults go outside and get drunk. Yeah. You just entertain the kids. And I that's why I strive as a family entertainer rather than a children's entertainer, because I say, well, I don't work like that. Here's some numbers, call these people. Mm-hmm. I just won't do them anymore.
Paul, you had alluded earlier about giving lectures. Is there something from your lecture on children's entertainment that are some key points that you can share with us?
Well, I've had two lectures that I've done. The first lecture that was about the business side of the entertainment, so there was no tricks whatsoever. The second lecture, which I'm kind of in the middle of now, is all about the tricks that I put in the lecture. Now, I think the business one is the far more important one. How to get the business, how to get repeat bookings from business. I'll give you a little tip from that. Yeah, one bit of advice in a second for anybody listening. But actually, I think when you go to magic clubs, as much as people want to be doing more parties, they're thinking that if I have the wow factor from a magic trick, I will then be able to earn a lot more money from going out and doing parties. And to be able to learn the secret of a magic trick is not necessarily the way to run a successful business. So here's a little business tip. And this is a long time since I've done this particular lecture for the business side of it. But so at the end of a party, a mum comes up to you or with a child and says, "Oh, I really enjoyed the party today. Have you got a business card?" They say, "Yeah, of course. Hold on a second. I can't find a business card. I tell you what, let me just write your number down. Are you going to be in about 7, 8 o'clock tonight? What time's bedtime for the kids? When would be a good time? 8 o'clock. I tell you what, I'll give you a ring at 8 o'clock. Get a bit of pay. Oh, I have got a business card. Anyway, 8 o'clock. I'll give you a buzz tonight. Take my card anyway, but I'll ring you." Now, you always had those business cards there ready to go. She's getting a phone call at 8 o'clock tonight, and I tell you what. They're not talking tonight about Magic Dave or Mr. Biscuit. They're talking about Colonel Custard. Unfortunately, in 3 days' time, that child could be going to a Mr. Biscuit party or a Magic Dave party or somebody else and have a fantastic time. But 3 days earlier, we've had that phone call. Her child's birthday party's in 6 months' time. She's gone, "Oh, my child is talking about nothing else." Well, she is tonight. And she's talking a bit about my show the next day and a tiny bit next week. And in 3 weeks' time, she can't remember what my name is. So strike while the iron's hot, bring them that evening, have a conversation. You're very, very busy, but can book it in on Saturday, the whatever, and job done. So there's a little tip for you. Hey,
That is a good idea.
Listen to the podcast just for that.
That explains a lot, Miss Paul. That explains a lot.
Are you bullying me?
Dave, did you mention earlier also that you had some DVDs available or something that Murphy's was selling or Penguin?
Yeah, so I produced over the years, I've had 4 DVDs that I produced and Murphy's have supplied. I've also done a couple of different lectures, which I've run on the circuit. Never lectured in America. I'd like to, anyone listening out there, I'd like to lecture in America. Oh, there you go. There's one of my DVDs.
There it is. Party Time by Magic Dave.
Pre-beard. That was my first one. So I've got Party Time 2, Bish Bash Bosh Magic, and the final one was Back to the Future Bookings. There you go. So that was the last one that I produced. And then, so I lectured all over, not all over Europe, but across Europe. Lots of European destinations. Never lectured in America. Would love to, I've got a real passion for what I do, and I love to share. I enjoy sharing what I've learned over the years. Absolutely.
On those DVDs, they include both tricks as well as marketing tips?
Yeah. So the first 2, the party ones, were kind of fly on the wall kind of camera work. So literally walking into a party, watching me set up, watching me play games, see how I control kids, everything, warts and all, things going wrong, how I handle it, and the magic show, and just sort of literally watch how it unfolds. So those were the first 2. And then the third one, Bish Bash Bosh, was a more traditional, here's a trick, here's how I do it, here's what you need, this is where you can buy it from. And then Back to the Future Bookings was a little bit different. So that was more talking about the business side of things as well. So it was a 2 DVD set. So it talks about how I use promotion, how I market, how I even take a phone call. There's even a bit on there of me talking to a customer, and also a bit of a theatre show, and just what I do and why I do it and how I do it, pretty much.
I know, of course, Murphy's Magic Supplies is really a wholesaler to magic shops, and so they don't retail. So where can they go? I assume to your website in order if someone's interested in ordering these.
Yeah. If you go to my website, magicdave.co.uk, that'll get you there. And there is a shop section where you can still buy the DVD. I think I've still got some somewhere.
Okay.
I've got some for sale.
Yes, exactly. Martin's got some.
Martin's got the used ones, yeah.
Not much cool for DVDs these days, but I've had a few sold over the years. I'm happy, and I've had a few props that I've made that I've sold and bits and pieces. Like I say, I'm passionate about what I do, and I do love to share it. Obviously it's nice to get money, but it's nice to sort of be recognised by your peers as someone who's good at what they do, and they appreciate it as well. So I've always loved that element of it.
Well, Paul was kind enough to share with us a great tip then also. Have you got something from your experience that you can share with the listeners?
Yeah, I guess uh, my best tip. I mean, I always do a similar. I've always done a similar sort of thing in the fact that I want to give out my business cards, but
Sure.
I actually tell them they're going to take my business cards. I make sure that my business card is quite an appealing fact, and that people are coming to me and asking for my business card. So what I've done over the years is I've always made my business cards like a postcard size, so quite a
Hmm.
big thing. And then I have in my shows, I always have a character um, uh, who's a cow, a big cow puppet, and I've always done a big photo of her in different costumes and different outfits and um, other bits and pieces. And at one point, although I don't have it anymore, there was even an app that you could download on your Apple devices of a game that I designed with her. So
Huh.
on that card, it told you where to download the app and all that kind of stuff. So I've always kind of gone at the end of the show. If you want your souvenir postcard of Daisy the cow, come and see me after show. So they're literally scrambling to grab this card. But and then when as a flippant comment, I would always say to the parents, I've accidentally put all my details on the back of the souvenir card. Sorry about that. The printer's made a mistake. So if you do need my number, that's on
Yeah.
the back. So it was always a kind of like, it was a funny gag, but it was a really nice way and I always tell the children to stick it on their fridge. So I would say, if you stick that on your fridge, it's really cool because it's like magic. I'll then appear at your birthday party. So again, another little gag, but that always made the parents laugh. But it was a nice way just to make sure I sort of in my head was thinking all these children have got Daisy the cow photos on their fridge with my details on. So it's
I bet
quite
they
nice.
do.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
yeah.
Yeah. Martin, what about you? Any good marketing tips or business
Well,
tips or
really,
performance?
I did have a lecture that I performed at what one was it? What convention was it? I've forgotten already.
Kidology.
Kidology. I done Kidology in the UK. I done a lecture there. It was well received, but I didn't have anything for sale at that time. And
What
then
was one of your biggest tips from that
one
lecture?
of my biggest tips: always don't have something for sale. And then they invited me back a couple of years later, and I lectured again, and I had things for sale that time. So really, because I don't really market myself as that anymore. Mr. Biscuit went from and Dave and Paul's done this. I went to cruise ships in the end, so most of my Mr. Biscuit work was on cruise ships.
Mm-hmm.
So my tip is don't go through an agent as a family entertainer on cruise ships. Go direct.
As far as trying to get booked on cruise ships, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Try and
I
go
have.
direct rather than through somebody.
Whenever I first started working on cruises, I had learned just the opposite, in which I went through an agent as opposed to going to the cruise ship themselves. Because when I had spoken with other cruise ship magicians, they were saying if you do send out material to these ships and then this, whether you do or don't, let's say you don't get any callbacks or doing something, and then you go to an agent, they will ask you, who have you already contacted? Because they're not going to go back to the Caribbean or whatever line, because they've already said no once, so they don't want to bring someone and represent someone else who has already seen your material. They would rather present it, and they've got the relationship, the agent does. Yeah, you're going to make more if you go direct, but that's not easy to go direct.
Well,
It goes back to the party planners and for birthday
yeah.
parties.
Well, most cruise ships have a department that just deals with children's entertainment. So that's where you need to pitch it. You need to go directly to them. For me,
How do you find that?
personally,
How do you find those people?
No, I've done it accidentally because I got on cruise ships as Mr. Biscuit by a complete accident.
How was that?
Well, the one of my close colleagues was on the cruise ships, and asked me to do them a favour and do two, because the agent was looking for someone to cover two ships. So I took them two bookings. I went on, I done them two bookings, and they liked me so much that they contacted the agent and unfortunately, that other magician got thrown off the ships for something.
Wow.
That
Okay.
sounds bad, doesn't it?
It did sound bad.
But that they lost their bookings basically, and they asked me to cover them. And then I went from that agent to another agent, who then sort of would muck me about a lot. But I'd already got a line in with the cruise entertainer, the what do they call him, youth director, and the youth director then put me in touch with the actual person who books, and then then I went direct after that. So I sort of went in that way. But if you go to their, not to their website because that's the way, but if you ring the office and ask to speak to the youth department, you can get to them that way, and then ask them if you can send them your stuff.
By physically going to their home office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just ask for the youth department.
Yeah, the youth department.
And I think that's a better way of doing it.
Because I would think just the opposite. Again, if you go to Disney and you want to get on Disney Cruise Lines, obviously they've got probably a youth director there as well, but they may say, that's fine, but we actually use an agency. You need to contact them. I'm just saying it might be different here than it is in the UK.
Yeah. That they do that. That Disney actually go out and here I know that Disney have gone to actual agencies who put on shows, and then Disney Cruises go and watch them shows, and if they like you, they book you that way.
Right.
But that's what's happened here with Disney. But I don't know about any other. I mean, I work mainly for P&O, and so that's how I got in. But
okay,
As
we start to wrap up over here, I want to kind of go around the horn here as well to find out if there's anything else perhaps that you wanted to share on this, as far as whether they're tips or some comments or something we may have left out that you'd like for the listeners and viewers here on YouTube to see or hear as we kind of go around. And then want to ask you about also, of course, what your magic word is, kind of give you a chance to think about what that might be, your phrase. Let me ask you, Paul, is there anything else that you'd like to share or to say? A question I may have not asked?
Yeah, I can just mention something else from my lecture. But first of all, I've got about 500 DVDs, which I think are very, very useful, because if you put one down and you it doesn't stain the worktop if you act as a coaster. So if anybody wants 500 of them, I can do you a good deal on them at the moment, because no on DVDs.
And where can they find those, by the way? What is your website?
In my loft, you can find them. ColonelCustard.com is a good place to start for them. So but anyway, that's it's not a dealer dem tonight, is it? So that's not the idea of it. But
right.
I had a concept about 20 years ago, and it seems like it's been taken up by a lot of people in the industry, and it was based on looking at other companies, and companies tend to go for a color. I mean, let's take EasyJet as an example, that they do tend to pick their orange, and any products they have would have that orange logo, and many companies, you would say, by a certain color you'd pick them. The Colonel Custard for me happened to be the yellow, and it seemed like that any prop that I then started to buy would always have that yellow theme. I mean, I've been doing shows at home here at the moment, and I could just pick up loads of props in the office which all happen to be yellow. Now, even to the point, I know Dave laughed at me at the point when he came to see my time and found this yellow extension lead and went, I can't believe this. I can't believe you actually go to the point that you've got a yellow extension lead. But my show is supposedly unique. Now, we know it's not, because we'll go to the conventions and we buy similar props, but I wanted my show to seem like it is just mine. So when you see my show, it's yellow or black, almost everything that I possess. So it's got a real good theme. And entertainers now coming into the business, often will think about that branding now and pick a particular color. I know Dave now is really strong on the long after that Dave bought a green extension lead, so they followed along that route. So I think branding is really important to try and make yourself individual, make yourself, so and so down the road wouldn't be doing that show because this is the Colonel Custard show, and it has a feeling that it's just mine. Although that isn't strictly true, as I say. So branding, I think, and colour towards branding, I think, is an important tip.
Dave, anything else that you'd like to add that I failed to ask?
Well, no, I'm sure we could talk all night
right.
about what we do. I think the most important thing and I've always said this about my shows and what I do is, you've got to be passionate. And I mean really passionate. And you've got to love it. You've got to love it. You've got to be passionate. There is no halfway in my opinion, with doing this business. And it will show. And every detail is important, even to, when you turn up at the party. The moment you turn up, that's it. You're on show. And, I've always been a big believer and I've followed Paul Megram, Colonel Custard's marketing ideas with the branding. And I've really sort of been very strong with my branding as well. And even like my vehicle is, has always been a really sort of outlandish, big, green van. I turn up, and the moment I turn up, people sort of go, okay, here's a guy that knows what they're doing, because his vehicle, it sets the tone. But it just comes down to be passionate about what you do, love what you do, and if you're not passionate and you don't love it, don't do it.
Well, I think that kind of is a good way of wrapping up for you as far as giving your magic word or your phrase, and that is to be passionate. That's good. Martin, how about for you?
Well,
what would be your magic phrase? What's your passion?
Okay. Oh, we got to there already. Oh, okay.
Well, no. Okay, tell me if there's something.
Well, no,
I forgot to ask
you
you first.
say that for me, I think it's what Dave said. He's be passionate, but also for me personally, it was the name. Mr. Biscuit was very easy to remember. The kids remember it very, very easily. It's not complicated, and I'm not Uncle somebody. I think Uncle something conjures up a age and oldness and not freshness. So for me, it was all about finding that name, and I have techniques that I teach in my lecture how to get to that name. How do you get to your name? How you find your kids or family entertainer's name. So that was the most important thing for me.
Your character, basically.
To basically build that character. Yeah.
I think it's important also, not only each of you have a name, but a character you have developed. And that means whenever you walk on stage, you are that person, and you know how that person or that character is going to act because you have the legend behind you. I talked with Pop Hayden some time ago. It's one of my favorite podcasts in which he really had gone deep. So whenever he's in any situation, he knows how that character would react because you almost have to live that and understand that character. And it sounds like each of you have kind of developed a character, so you are that
really
person.
Important.
Even my children, once I put that suit on, and that they didn't call me Dad anymore, they called me Mr. Biscuit. So that's how strong that character was, even to my own children.
Okay, so what about your magic word? What's your phrase? We've discussed this before, and I know it's changed, but now we're talking about
I know it
children's
changes.
magic.
It does change, but I think I agree with Dave in that is that you've got to be passionate. So I can't really have the same word. So I say try to be original. Originality.
Originality is important. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not looking for a word. It could be something, whatever you live by, whatever is going to be important. So it's important to be original. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Paul, okay, let me come back to you, Colonel Mustard. So what do they, what is kind of your phrase? What's your philosophy of life?
Mustard.
Yeah, the reason these guys are laughing because it's custard, not mustard. But yeah.
Sorry.
So,
that's Cluedo.
I'm getting him conflagrated here. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed.
I think that's a great important one, Martin. Original. So yeah, I'll be original. Oh no, I can't be original because he's original. So let's change that phrase a little bit. Just before I give you my phrase, I just want to just touch on something you just said there about knowing who you are within your show.
Yeah,
And I think for
sure.
every children's entertainer, it is a crucial thing to realise. Now, I'm going to say who I am to start off with, and for me, my character is not clever in any way. So I'll give you an example for a trick that is not going to work for me at all here. And the trick is newspaper tear. So tear it up and restore the paper back to a full newspaper. An amazing trick. For 99% of magicians, that would be fantastic. For me, if I open that up and the ta-da moment, the kids would be attacking me verbally, but also saying, oh, it's a trick newspaper or it's whatever. If I got a child up on stage and they managed to do that, the child can look clever, and then that's very important. The other character trait of mine is I get very confused on the stage and things tend to go wrong all the time, but they end up being or whatever. So tricks have to follow down that line for me, and going around a dealer hall, that's how I would find my own particular personality, not the personality that's right for everybody else, but I know who I am on stage and which tricks are going to work for me. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, kind of.
And also, just as a magic word or a magic phrase or whatever, the three of us are involved in a local magic society based in Watford by the name of WAM, the Watford Association of Magicians. And I find myself now having to speak to entertainers around the country and often around the world and booking acts. And I just feel that if you're the nice guy in this industry, people want to talk to you, you will help them out, they will help you out. Networking is so important, and it's worked very well for me to be able to just chat to people around the country from just being a nice guy, and help people out where you can, and they'll certainly return it back to you. So the phrase is, be a nice guy.
Be a nice guy. Yeah, because it'll come back to you in spades. All very well said, you guys. This is great. Thank you so very much for your time. This has been nothing short of just very informative, enlightening, and entertaining, and certainly a lot of fun. Thank you guys very much, and I wish you continued success in each of your fields of endeavor of working family shows and children's shows and everything in and around your area. So look forward to seeing you all personally in the real world, perhaps this next year at Blackpool even. So
I do hope so.
Or Dave may be over here for a lecture tour sometime.
Absolutely.
Might have to get together and talk about that. So thank you very much. And again, for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Paul Megram and Dave Allen and Martin Cox. This is Scotty out. Thank you, guys. That was great. Appreciate your advice and your time that you had given. I want to apologize also to the viewers and listeners. It was a little bit of a glitch from time to time in there, just some connectivity issues, as you can imagine, but they were few and far apart. So I apologize for some of those little glitches. But anyhow, did what we can do, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. Well, listen, this has been wonderful. I thank you guys again very much for tuning in and watching this over on YouTube. And also just another reminder, make sure that you subscribe to the channel over here, if you will. Just go down below here on YouTube where you are viewing this currently and just subscribe. It really will help us out a lot. So please tell your friends also about this podcast and that we're now doing this on YouTube, so they might want to watch or listen then as well. And they can subscribe, and that will help us all better in this world, which comes down to the closing for this week. Until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to always be Mr. Nice Guy. This is Scotty out.